I am the self-help hacker. To make a long story short, anyways, okay, so those two phrases, which you see in the title of this video, your life has been changed. You're never going to hear anyone say those again without thinking of me, Nick Shell, the self-help hacker. This is a clue that someone is a poor communicator. Now, this is important to be a good communicator. This is a common theme on these self-help hacker videos. I've got one that talks about often you're going to be the only person in the room or the situation who actually is halfway decent at communicating and being decisive, that sort of thing. It's very important, and people will like you more if you're good at communicating. But people who are bad at communicating will ramble on. They'll tell you this long rambling story, and you're trying to figure out, why am I still listening? And then they'll say, to make a long story short, and then they'll just say it. Well, they still usually don't say it short enough. They'll still drag it out about 3 more sentences before they tell you the thing that they're trying to tell you. And also, leading up to make a long story short, you'll probably even hear, anyways. So that's a sign of someone who's not good at communicating. When you're good at communicating, you will not say anyways. Because anyways, keep in mind I have an English degree, so just by default, this is the space that I live in my head. This is how I view the world, because, you know, I went to college to get an English degree, so that's got to be something I'm good at, apparently. Anyways, basically is negating what I've just said, saying, I haven't been communicating well. I have not been focused on one direction in my conversation. So I'm having to say an audible note to self. Focus on what you're trying to say. That's what anyways means. I don't say anyways. You're never going to hear me say anyways. If you ever hear me say anyways in any of my videos, other than this one, obviously this is the exception, leave a comment, call me out on it. That's how strongly I feel about not using the word anyways. And same thing with to make a long story short. Other than this video, for obvious reasons, because I'm calling out how bad of a thing it is. To make a long story short, if you're a good communicator, there's no such thing as a long story. That's really what it comes down to. Because you, like I've been saying in my videos, people don't care so much about you, they care about themselves. I mean, I know that's hurtful to imagine. That's why I remind people, why don't you be the opposite? Why don't you care more about other people than yourself? As Christianity teaches, the whole concept of Christianity is that you love God and His commandments, and you love your neighbor as yourself. That's what Christianity is boiled down to. Look at the Bible, that's what it says. Ultimately, why? Because people are so focused on themselves. So therefore, you don't want to be the one telling the long story, the long pointless story. They're going to like you more, not because you told some long story, but because you told them something interesting in a digestible format. You want to give them more time to talk. And yes, chances are they're poorer of a communicator than you are. And they're going to say anyways. And they're going to say to make a long story short. But that's on them. At least you are in control of this exchange. Basically passing them the mic more. You want the other person to talk more than you. Yes, you start the conversation at times. It's only to get them talking. So if you're telling a rambling story, to make a long story short, anyways, if you say that, they can't respect you as much because they're not getting enough mic time. That's what it comes down to. So never will you hear those phrases again, and never will you hear me say them again, because it's an obvious reflection of how poor of a communicator you would be. You want the other person to be talking more than you. That gives you the power. See, this is a life hack. You may think, oh, this is just a silly video. No, this is a very important video. Very important. Because it's really about how can I make people respect me and like me more? Pass them the mic. Let them tell the story that's pointless. Closing thought. It was funny today. So I work, I'm on the phone all day for what I do for a job. And I can size people up. See, I have to be able to size people up. I'm a recruiter, so I'm on the phone with people all day long, and I'm having to place people with jobs all across the United States. I have to find the most interested, qualified candidate for each position. So that means to hire one person for one job, I'm going to go through 20 people, at least minimum, to find the one that's interested and qualified enough for the position. So and I'm good at what I do. I'm above average in my company, my team, what I do. The numbers have revealed it, for 2019. That's a fact. So that means I'm doing something right. It's not, I'm just good. No, I'm not just good. I know what I'm doing. There's a strategy and there's skills involved. I'm not just good. No one's just good at something like that. There's maybe naturally your brain is on the right wavelengths. But here's one of the things. I size somebody up in the first 3 seconds of the phone call. The first 3 seconds of the phone call. If I have somebody call and say, I'm calling about that job. Now, I already know that person's not too interested in it because they don't even know what the job is. Compare that with the next guy. Hey, I'm calling about the job that you've got in Dallas, Texas, the one that's second shift. See, he knows something about the job, and he's saying that immediately compared to, I'm calling about that job. So what I do is I know to focus heavily and continue the conversation with the person with the details for me. And the person who's meandering, that they're not decisive, which is one of the things that I talk about here on my channel for this series, Self-Help Hacker. You want to be the person who's decisive. So for me, part of what makes me good at my job is identifying those decisive people. Because a decisive person who knows about the job they're calling about is most likely going to be more decisive to do the application, go through the interview process, sign all the papers I need them to sign, and show up on the first day and work the first week and continue working. But usually it's those people who barely know what they're even saying and are very vague and confused. They're going to be the people who are not going to follow through. So that's how important it is. Your comments belong right here.